Hey, hey, hey! What's happening, YouTube? I know I've been gone for too long, but guess what? I'm back, baby. I'm back like I absolutely never left. Because truth is, I haven't. I've been right here. I've been chilling. I've been handling my business. I've been out handling some things. So I do apologize for all of y'all that have wanted me to do a video, but I could not do one at my earliest convenience. But today is your lucky day because you've got Intergalactic Brew right here, right now. And it's a lot of stuff that's been going on in the combat sports and the original sports world, as I would put it. I want to talk about something really hilarious I just saw on Facebook. Well, not Facebook, but well, I don't know where I just saw that video from, but I know I just stumbled across a video that my boy Rampage Jackson just did, and it was a real interesting video, and it kind of summed up, how Quentin's really feeling at this point in his career and where he is. Now, although I'm a fan of Quentin, y'all already know, if anybody that knows me here on YouTube, when it comes to MMA, anybody on here knows that I am probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, Quentin Rampage Jackson fan in the world, period. So, when you watch this video, know that I'm going to speak my mind, but at the same time, there's going to be some things that I'm going to say that is going to be in agreement with Quentin as well. Okay, so I'm watching the video that he did for Fight Magazine. That's the name of the company that he did the interview for. And he was sitting at home, I believe at his house or either at his gym in California, some small town. I think it's called Mission Vallejo, California. I think that's what the guy said. I can't remember the name, but I know it's in California. And obviously he's getting ready for his big match with Ryan Bader this Saturday in Japan at UFC 144. And I was just listening to him talk, and the one part of the interview that really caught my ears' attention, so to speak, was when he started talking about Joe Rogan. Now, I know it's a lot of y'all Joe Rogan fans on here, and y'all probably are going to send me some of the most brutal and evil comments on this video that y'all probably ever sent me before. And I don't care, because I'm going to speak my mind and say how I feel. So y'all just get your keyboards ready and get your fingers, cracked and everything, because I'm going to give y'all something to type about, okay? So, okay, he's talking about Joe Rogan, and he's talking about how every time a jiu-jitsu fighter competes in a match, that Joe Rogan somehow changes his tune and becomes biased. Now, listening to that, I totally agree with Quentin. I do. And I am so glad, I am so glad there's somebody out there that feels the same way that I do about Joe Rogan's commentary. I really, really am. And I applaud Quentin so much for having not only the guts but the balls to come out and say it without any hesitation. And I know Quentin's going to get heat from Joe Rogan. I know Joe Rogan is going to have something to say about that. I know that. But hey, this is a free world. This is a free country. And we have the right to the freedom of speech. So I don't see any crime in Quentin coming out and speaking his mind about certain people. To quote Chael Sonnen, we're in that business. So he does have the authority to do that. Now, going back to what I was saying just now. So he's talking about how with Joe Rogan, every time a guy who does jujitsu fights in a fight, how Joe Rogan kind of shows favoritism towards them. And I totally agree with Quentin. Now, I mean, come on. I mean, let's just be real here, people. Anybody that is a true MMA fan and watches the UFC, anybody that knows Joe Rogan knows that he has his favorites. He does. I mean, it's just plain and simple. Joe Rogan has his favorites in the UFC and in MMA, period. And I don't think it's right. I really don't. I really do not think it's right. And I really don't think, I'll be so bold as to say this, I don't think Joe Rogan is a fully skilled MMA commentator. I really don't. I think his analogies are good. You know, I think his philosophies can be pretty good too. But I don't think that his knowledge is as superior as Mike Goldberg's. At least with Mike Goldberg, at least you get a fair, unbiased, neutral commentary in the contest. Joe Rogan, his commentary is more so that of a fan's perspective. And see, that's not good. When you reach the professional level in broadcasting, you have got to separate your emotions and your feelings as a fan to a professional. I mean, that's just the way it is. If you can't do that, then you don't need to be calling matches for any sport. But I mean, then again, I mean, Joe Rogan's not the only victim of this. I mean, let's look at ESPN. ESPN's the same way. I mean, they show favoritism and are so biased towards certain teams. You know, it's makes you want to just pull your hair, or just make you just want to have some type of magical power and just reach your hand through the TV screen and just literally choke the breath out of some of those analysts. So, I mean, Joe Rogan is not the only guy on the planet that does this. It's other folks that do it too. It's just that when it comes to combat sports, Joe Rogan is pretty much the only guy that you know, really has a habit of doing it on more than one occasion. That's why people notice it. But I think Quinn made a good point though. I think Joe Rogan, you know, I think he needs to be a little bit more unbiased and a little bit more neutral in his commentary. Because I've seen it and heard it over and over again. I mean, whether it's with, what's a good example? Whether it's with Anderson Silva, whether it's with John Jones, who's another guy that Joe Rogan is really high on? Jose Aldo, Ben Henderson, Frankie Edgar, BJ Penn, even George St. Pierre. You know, I mean, it's just a constant occurrence of just this favored, neutral, I mean, not neutral, but biased commentary. It is. And it's ridiculous. And Joe Rogan really needs to check himself. He really does, because I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Joe Rogan keeps showing that biased favoritism toward these fighters. When he calls these matches, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot of other fighters that catch on to this. It's going to be a lot of other fighters, and I guarantee you, if a lot of other fighters catch on to Joe Rogan's biased commentary, I guarantee you, man. You think Rampage dissed him? Joe Rogan's going to be public enemy #1. I'm serious. So, Joe, you really need to slow down. You need to slow down, buddy. Seriously, though. You need to slow down. And you really need to watch those matches over, and you really need to watch the things that you say. Because, yeah, the fighters may not hear you, or probably can't hear you, in the midst of competition. But please believe, when their fight is over, they do go back and they do watch the DVD copy of their matches, and they can hear you. So I would really be conscious of what I say out there. Because I've heard you say like a lot of contradictive stuff about people. Oh yeah, and another guy that Joe Rogan shows a lot of favoritism towards is Frank Mir too. That's another guy. But yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, I think it should be a level playing field with commentators calling MMA matches. And when you look at, the other great MMA broadcasters in MMA, like, Mauro Ranallo and Steven Quadros, even Bas Rutten, when you look at guys like that, they're very professional. They don't sound like fans. They actually sound like fully trained, seasoned broadcasters. And that's how it should be. I mean, hell, even Pat Miletich. Well, no, wait. Let me not go that far. Because Pat Miletich is kind of like Joe Rogan, too. Him and Frank Shamrock. Even though Frank Shamrock doesn't do it as much as Pat Miletich does. But that's besides the point. What I'm saying is Joe Rogan just really needs to clean that up and needs to start being more professional when he calls fights, because that could get you in a lot of trouble. Because not only do the people hear it, but like I said just now, the fighters are going to hear it too, and it's going to be a lot of fighters that's going to jump down Joe Rogan's throat. So Joe Rogan really needs to watch himself, But yeah, man, I just thought that was a really good point that Quentin made, because that has really frustrated me over, the past couple of years recently, that Joe Rogan is really starting to become like more vocal with his favoritism and his biasness in fights. And, it really makes me want to just like go to a UFC event and catch him walking outside a building somewhere and just slap him in the back of the head and just throw him into a dumpster. Seriously though, that's how mad I get when I hear Joe Rogan like constantly co-signing with certain fighters, and I just don't think it's right. I mean, if Mike Goldberg can sit there and call a fight right down the middle, then so can Joe Rogan. But see, like I said, and I'll say it again, Joe Rogan is not a professionally trained broadcaster. He's not. He's just not. Because if he was, he would have known that when you're calling any type of live event with two competitors, especially individual competition, you have to be biased and neutral. I mean, when one guy does something bad, you elaborate on that. When somebody does something good, you elaborate on that. I mean, it's not math or anything of that nature. I mean, it's simple. Just call the fight down the middle. It's pretty much it. So Joe Rogan, you really need to, cut that crap out. You know what I'm saying? Like doing all that favoritism and all that stuff. I mean, these guys, they aren't Iron Man. They're not the Terminator. They don't have cold steel for bodies. Their bones break, their veins bleed, their bodies sweat, they ache in pain, they scream, they do everything any other human being does. And you need to start calling the fights like that, Joe. Seriously. You do. You need to start calling the fights like that. Because if you keep continuing showing this favoritism and stuff, I mean, it's gonna get you in a lot of trouble. So I'm glad Rampage actually had the guts to say something about that. So that was good. another thing I want to talk about right quick is the fight with Ryan Bader. Now I know everybody's gonna criticize Quentin for saying that he just wants to put on an exciting fight and he doesn't care if he wins or loses. Now this is what I want to say about that, okay? Now, although that might be the wrong attitude to have, at the same time you got to understand, you know, when you win a championship in any sport, when you've been on top, when you've been quote unquote that guy before, I mean, sure, you want to keep training and sure you still want to be inspired, but I mean, really, what else do you have left to prove? What else does Rampage have left to prove? I mean, he's done everything he's wanted to do in his career. Now, I'm not, trying to sound biased. I'm just being for real, and I'm just speaking in general. What more do you have left to prove when you've won the UFC championship belt? What else do you have to prove? That's my whole thing. I mean, he's knocked out Chuck Liddell. He's beat Dan Henderson. He beat Vanderlei Silva. He beat Lyoto Machida. I mean, seriously though, I mean, he's what, held the Pride middleweight title. He's held the UFC light heavyweight title. I mean, he's been in the main events. I mean, he's got a huge fan base. What else does Rampage have left to prove? Seriously. I mean, that's not just with him. That's the same thing with Randy Couture when he was still continuing to fight, with Chuck Liddell when he was still continuing to fight. I mean, what else do you have left to prove? Now, if you still have that urge and you still have that inspiration to still want to be a champion, fine. Fine. That's great. That's awesome. I don't underestimate you one bit. But don't be mad. But all I'm saying to the fans is don't be mad that Quentin Rampage Jackson doesn't feel like he has nothing else left to prove. Don't be mad at him because, his motivation isn't what it used to be. Don't be mad at that. That guy is 33, 34 years old. That guy's been fighting in this sport for a long time. A long time. Probably longer than all of us can even remember. So, I mean, the guy is tired. Seriously, I mean, when you've been doing your profession as long as Quentin has, sometimes you get a little tired. Sometimes you get a little restless. And sometimes, you want to step out, of, your comfort zone, so to speak. And you want to explore other zones or other professions. I mean, that's what the world is built around. The world is built around versatility. You're not just going to do one thing for the rest of your life. You're going to want to find and do other things to keep yourself occupied. Especially, if you've been successful at one thing. The world is not revolved around just staying in one place. You want to go to other places. And that's, just the natural instinct of doing one thing. You want to do another. So that's why 1 + 1 = 2. Not 1. So, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's just the fact that, like I said, Quentin does not have nothing else to fight for except for the pure joy, happiness, and entertainment of his fans like me. And I stand behind Quentin on that. 100 100%. I stand behind him on that. I do. And I feel him. I feel him. I understand he's tired. I understand Quentin is tired. I understand that he's been fighting in MMA since what, 1997? Something like that. So I understand how he feels. He's burnt out. And I think that's what us as fans should realize too. I mean, I understand, they're our favorite fighters and, we want to see them compete as much as possible. But we also have to have our human minds kick in too. And we have to realize that these people are human beings. They are adults. They do have kids. And they do get old. Age is real. And once you get on down into the late ages of your career, you want to slow down. You want to settle down, and you want to enjoy, the remaining years of your life that you have. That's just as ordinary as, when somebody that's a CEO or a general manager of a big time corporation or franchise decides to retire and just decides to enjoy the fruits of his labor for the rest of his life. That's the way it goes. I mean, it's just simple as that. So being that Rampage has had a successful career for a long time, and being that he's worked very diligently and very hard for most of his life, he's just decided, like, hey, I'm just gonna do it for the pure love of competition and for the pure love of my fans and for their entertainment. That's what he's thinking right now. I know I'm going over a little bit, but I got to get this out, seriously. But yeah, we can't be mad at that. All we can do is accept it if we're true fans. If you're really loyal to this guy and you really support him, and you really care about Quentin the way that you say you do, then you'll agree with him. He just wants to be happy. He's already had to put up with a lot of red tape for most of his career. So, I mean, if anything, as fans, we should be happy that Quentin is happy at this point in his life. So, yeah. And I mean, okay, to be fair, I guess, Quentin may be one-dimensional. Alright, that's fine. But I mean, that's him. There's nothing we can do. Joe Rogan, there's nothing we can do, Joe. If Quentin decides not to throw another leg kick ever in a fight, that's him. That's what he wants to do. If he decides not to use his wrestling and take somebody down and try to out wrestle him and ground and pound him and submit him and stuff, then that's what he chooses to do. You have to let Quentin fight the way that he's going to fight. And that's what's wrong with some of these analysts and some of these fans these days. They try to figure people out, and they try to want to think they can really know the person. Like, why are you wasting your time? Don't you have better things to do? Don't you have your life to worry about? Why are you so worried about wanting to have, this psychological advantage and to hoist your ego up so high that you want to be able to figure a person out and know what they're doing? I mean, okay. So, I mean, it's just mind-boggling. It really is. It's funny too that people just, want to think they can figure other people out and what their style is and what they like to do. I mean, like, do away with that, man. Worry about your own life. Like, worry about, what your career is going to be and how you're going to be able to provide for your future family in the long haul. Don't worry about them, because they already got themselves straight. They already set for life. The question is, are you? So yeah. So I'm just saying, man, just like back off the man, like for real. Y'all just so stuck to him, like, jeez, man, let the guy, you know, walk around in his own space, man, like for real. But but yeah, though. I mean, regardless of the outcome of the fight of Bader and Quentin, you know, I could, you know, I just want to be there to support Quentin because he's my favorite fighter, and I truly do care about that guy, and I truly do like him. So I mean, whether he wins or whether he loses, I know he's going to put on an exciting fight, and it's going to be great. You know, that's all I got to say. And if he loses the fight, what is Joe? What are you going to say, Joe? What, you're going to say he has no desire to be a champion or he'll never be a champion again? He's already been one. Nobody ain't got to win no title twice or three times just to prove they're a real champion. If you've held that belt, if that belt has been wrapped around your waist by Dana White, then you pretty much reached the plateau of success. Period. You don't have to win the title 2 or 3 times just to prove you're a real champion. You don't have to do that. You know, the bottom line is, people are going to remember, even when Quentin does retire for good, that he was a former UFC light heavyweight champion. That's the same thing they're going to remember about Couture, Liddell, Hughes, Machida, Rashad, Anderson Silva. I mean, everybody. If you've held that belt around your waist at one time, you are a true champion. You don't have to keep winning something. You don't have to constantly win to prove that, you know, you're a true champion. If you won a championship, then you're a champ. And that's going to about do it, man. So yeah. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to be doing my excuse me, my UFC 144 predictions probably sometime towards the end of this week. Also, I'm going to be doing a video on the Atlanta Hawks and their current state right now. So all of y'all stay tuned for that. Like I said, I'm back now. You know, I know I've been gone for a little bit, but I'm gonna get back on here and start and let my voice be heard again. So like I said, I know this video kind of was kind of long and everything, but I mean, just bear with me. It's my first time back on YouTube, and I really wanted to get this out. But even though it did go over and it was long, I still hope y'all enjoy it, and I hope y'all get something out of this. And you know, just remember what I said, man. Just, you know, let Quentin be Quentin. You know, because if you really like him, you're not gonna care, you know, what he does or how he does it. You know, just as long as you love it and you appreciate it, I'm sure that's all he cares about. And Joe Rogan, keep his name out your mouth. For real. But yeah, man, I'm gone. Deuce.